This week on London Real, we have the singer, songwriter, and performer, Ayah Marar.
I feel like London is the place where anybody can come to start. I can't even tell you the impact that certain songs have made in my life growing up, and you know how music was there for me when people weren't. If something is real, you'll know, you'll feel it. It's the tiniest things about us that are so important. And for me, it's not really happiness, it's fulfillment, because who's to say that happiness is right and sadness is wrong? I love being on tour so much. I love being on the road. If I could live my life on stage, I'd do that. The highs are high and the lows are lower because you're doing what you love for a living. When you get to the top, there's nowhere else to go. So why are you in a rush to get to the top? Anything done with love might take a little bit longer to get there, but when it does, it's there to stay.
London Real presents Ayah Marar, Hussle Girl.
I'm constantly paying my dues to music because I work for music, it doesn't work for me.
Welcome back to London Real. I'm here in Shoreditch with my man behind me. Looks like he's called Deja Voodoo. I'm kind of feeling this vibe, and wanted to start off this episode with a little bit of a street flavor. You know, every now and then I have a wonderful experience here on London Real. That's not fair. It happens every week, but sometimes I get super pleasant surprises. And I got one of those 2 weeks ago when this lovely woman came over to my studio. Her name is Ayah Marar, and I got this kind of this instant warm feeling of, I don't know what it was, you know, like maternal, positive, and just kind of loving energy I got from this lady. And I wasn't really expecting it. I had watched her videos on YouTube, which have like over 40 million views for her video with Calvin Harris, Thinking About You. You know, she is a singer, a songwriter, a performer. She owns her own label called Hussle Girl. And let's be honest, you never know what you're gonna get when it comes to anyone really, but a performer or a Hollywood person, you just don't know. You know, she tours, she performs in front of 20,000 people, and you just never know what you're gonna get. And she showed up with her Scottish husband. They just got married, who was super cool in himself. And I joked with her before we shot the show that I'm just gonna have him as the guest because he's a real fascinating guy from Glasgow. And I hope I can spend more time with those two in the future. As I said about halfway through the episode, Ayah reminds me of Susie. And if you've been watching London Real for some time, you'll know that Susie is our code name for our shaman, our ayahuasca shaman, that 2 years ago walked me through my very first ayahuasca experience. And, you know, it was just this kind of female energy that really I needed, and Nick and I needed for that night when we were in a scary place, and she was there for us. And, you know, some people just, they have that feeling about them where you just get this really good vibe. And, you know, Ayah has it, and we had a really good talk with her about her music, the industry, coming from Jordan when she was 18 years old, meeting Calvin Harris back in 2004 when she worked in Soho in the music industry. And this girl's really paid her dues. You know, this wasn't an X Factor that made her famous. You know, she's been there and done that, and you can see it in her. And she is going to, you know, she's young, she's in her early 30s, but she will grow into, in my opinion, kind of a real maternal figure in the industry. And so I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to watch her grow, and yeah, hopefully I'll get to spend more time with her and her husband in the future, because there's something going on there and it's good. So I hope you enjoy Ayah. I think it was fascinating, some of the lessons she has, as far as one of our favorite lines is, when you get to the top, all you can do is go down. So what's your rush in getting to the top? And it's an interesting way of looking at things. You know, what is your rush? Maybe that's a way of saying it's about the journey in a strange way. So thanks for those insights, Ayah. I hope you enjoy her. She's got a label called Hussle Girl, so go check her out, ayahmarar.com. And if you're loving this, please share with your friends, like it on YouTube, and you know, all that good stuff, so we can keep them coming. If you have any ideas or suggestions, let's do it. I'm so glad we had a female guest on London Real. It's my mistake we haven't had more, so please send me more of these fabulous women. I love powerful, strong women. There's nothing better. So I'm like James Cameron. I love them. I would love to feature them always in my movies, and always have them on the show. So please send them, and we'll get that back to you. Here we go, just rolling through the streets of Shoreditch. If you've been watching me, I've been on the bars now in Maida Vale and Paddington doing my muscle ups, and that's thanks to the guys at Monkey Nutrition. They are fueling this body with their Primal 26 protein powder, and I'm having that about 3 times a week, and I'm close to the muscle up. But I'll be honest, it's probably one of the most frustrating things I've ever done, especially when there's like a kid next to you who's like busting out 6 muscle ups and you can't seem to get it figured in your head. I'm plenty strong, but just making some of these transitions is difficult. So, but I'm still gonna do it, man. It is about the journey, although it's hard to remind yourself of that sometimes. So check them out. We just gave away a free ebook and some protein powder about 2 weeks ago. We're gonna be doing that again in November. So keep an eye out, but you can click on here and go to a special link that'll go to their store where you can pick up the ebook or some powder. So definitely do that. And big thanks to those guys for supporting the show. We really appreciate it. You can see me sporting this fabulous t-shirt, which of course you can get in our gear section at London Real. And you know, our entire website is looking pretty fabulous these days. We've got a blog, we've got videos, you can make comments on Facebook, and that is all brought to you by the guys at Squarespace. They are our partners. You know, I've said it once, I'll say it again. When you're online, you get one chance to make a first impression, and quite honestly, that's going to be your website. There's a man behind me, and it's got to be beautiful. It's got to be on. These days, I call it Web 3.0, as in your site has to be really good looking. Otherwise, people don't even think you're serious. So, Squarespace has a whole new designs called Squarespace 7. They've got 15 new designs that are inspired by artists and people in the field. One of them is Alex Honnold, which is the free climber, and he had a whole site that lets people see what he sees. And there's so many fabulous designs. I'm actually going to pick one out and give a spice away to my girl who does cooking, and she's going to do her food blog. So if you don't want a site for yourself, get it for someone you love, and you can go on there and just start creating your website without even a credit card. And then when you do, it's like $8 a month, and of course you can get 10% off using the code London if you want to do that. So I highly encourage it, and make something beautiful. It's so easy with the drag and drop functionality. You can look like a boss player with just a few minutes of time. So big thanks to those guys. Love those guys, love what they're doing with their sponsoring like all the wonderful artists. So there you go. As you probably know, I will be going down tomorrow to, it's funny how this thing says scary behind me, because I'll be going to the scary Badlands of Scotland tomorrow to go see the $50 billion man. Yes, it's Mr. Dan Pena. I'm going up there for his QLA seminar. That's the Quantum Leap Advantage, which is Dan's course where he basically teaches you how to be a better person. I'm going to go up there. I'm going to interview him. I have no idea what's going to happen. I'll be quite honest with you. Part of me is right on the edge. I'm just thinking that if Dan decides to give it a little extra large to me and tries to push it a bit too much, then I'm gonna walk the fuck out of there. And I'm gonna try not to let that happen, but if it happens, then fuck him and I'll do it. So we'll see. I'm there to learn, and as long as it's done in an intelligent manner, we're gonna have a great week together. If not, it's gonna be short-lived, and I'll be back to London, never looking back. So we'll see. It should be interesting. It is a bit like the Peña Oscar, drinking the ayahuasca with him, as in like, I don't know what the hell's gonna happen, but hey, what the hell, right? We're gonna go check it out, so I'll keep you posted on what happens. And that's it. I just want to give a big thanks out to the guys that fuel my morning and fuel everything, and that's the guys at Bulletproof. They make a coffee that's free of molten toxins. You mix it up with grass-fed butter and some brain octane oil. They've got a new branding, a new look, a new everything. It's just so exciting to see this company just making it to the top. Ayah Marar loved the coffee. Of course she did. I gave her a bottle of brain octane oil, and she took it with her, and she's now a fan. Of course, we have 100% conversion rate here on London Real, and those numbers are hard to argue with. So get yourself some. You can click on the link here. As well, you can pre-order the Bulletproof Diet book. This is going to be a huge change and a huge statement as far as how the Bulletproof way can affect, you know, how you're eating and what you're doing. So pre-order that book. You can get like 9 free videos. You can get the first chapter. I think they send out free now in a PDF document if you order it. So click on that, do that, get yourself some coffee, and get London Real all in your life from all different aspects. And that's it. Wish me luck on this trip with Mr. Pena. If you want to send me a message or a future guest, male or female, it's brian@londonreal.tv. Get a shirt, click on the gear button on our website. We got hoodies as well, coffee cups coming soon. But yeah, let people know what you're thinking and how you're doing. And yeah, hopefully next time I will be reporting to you and sending you pictures from the castle in Scotland. And so we'll see how that goes, but I'm very optimistic. And now I leave you with the fabulously lovely, the super warm, please listen very well to the message that she has to have. It's Ayah Marar. Okay, here we go. This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Ayah Marar, who is a singer, songwriter, performer, DJ, radio show host, and owner of the label Hussle Girl.
Correct. Yeah.
You have been featured as a vocalist or writer for the huge artists such as Calvin Harris, DJ Fresh, and Camo and Crooked.
Yes.
You were born in Jordan to a Jordanian father and a Czech-Bulgarian mother. Big shout out to the Bulgarians, my girlfriend, and my stepdaughter. Of Bulgarian.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah.
Zdrasti, everyone.
There you go. Zdrasti, yes. I was saving that for the show. So they're very excited about this, to say the least. Your manager, Ali, says you are, quote, pretty much now the biggest dance vocalist and writer on the planet.
Oh, wow.
So
he's doing his job there.
Yeah. What a great manager that is, right?
That's lovely.
So if anyone's an aspiring musician, you might want to give him a ring because...
Absolutely. Oh, no, hit me on Twitter, man. I'm there.
Yeah, he's definitely in your corner. Ayah, welcome to London Real.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here. It's nice to break our streak of male guests, and I take full responsibility for that. And I'm glad we're going to shake it up today.
Absolutely.
You know, I moved to London. I was just speaking earlier with your husband about this, and a very cool dude, by the way.
Thank you.
And I moved to London about 17 years ago.
Yes, sir.
And you know, now whether I like it or not, it's part of who I am.
Yes.
You know, it's part of of how I dress, of how I talk, how I walk, things that make me laugh that normally wouldn't make me laugh in California. And so now it's part of who I am. And I was wondering, you know, when you moved to London 15 years ago, how that transformed you as a person or defined you as a person and then as an artist.
You know, I'm so glad you say that because I feel like London is the place where anybody can come to start their lives, to be who they want to be. You can come from anywhere, any background, any education, political views, and it's still one of the only places in the world, I think, that you can do that. And as far as I'm concerned, I mean, initially I came over to Warwick University to study. So I was living around Coventry area, which is in the Midlands, and then moved to London a couple of years after that. And it's home. It just makes you feel like home. And for what I do for a living as a musician, I love the Middle East and I loved growing up there. I love the values it instilled in me. But there was a distinct lack of support for my trade, specifically, as a young woman wanting to do something in music. There was a little bit I'd say a bit of a fight, you know? And it took me a while to convince people, including my father and my family, that it was the right thing for me to do. And that came with the success and with the hard work. And, you know, I've been in the game about 15 years now, but London's made it happen. So, yeah.
Was Jordan because you were a female musician, or is it because it's also a smaller town than, say, London? Or is it the popular music that wasn't happening?
I think it was just about being, you know, there's a very big divide. You know, as you know, most of the country are below the poverty line. It's not we're a third world country. And I was lucky enough to be from I'd say middle to upper class family, but self-made. And my father's a self-made man. He worked hard. My grandfather was the first electric engineer in Jordan, so he worked his way up that chain and stuff. So it was more about a status thing. So how could someone from such a prominent family do something that's, you know, that was reserved for, you know, people who perhaps were uneducated, or does that make sense?
Yeah,
you know, it was less of a kind of...
So it was kind of a social issue.
Absolutely, absolutely,
okay.
Yeah.
And so they want to say my daughter's a doctor or a lawyer.
Absolutely, yeah.
Not
or married to one.
Or
yeah.
married to one, okay.
Yeah,
not a struggling musician.
No.
Okay.
No.
Let alone musician.
Absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
so you took off from Jordan and you didn't tell anyone where you were going, or?
No, because I came to study initially, basically the only way you can leave there is either you come to university or you go to university in Jordan. And because we'd spent most summers in England, my family and I used to holiday here, so I had an affinity with London from a young age, and I thought to myself, I want to come and study in England. And I went to an international school, so, you know, we did the baccalaureate, so it kind of set the stage for that. And I came over to Warwick to read history of art, which was, you know, it was 3 years. It was more of a university of life than anything else. I met people there. I experimented a lot with everything. It was social, emotional, musical, all these different experiences, these new things that I never would have experienced if I'd stayed in Jordan. And it set the stage for me to decide how I wanted to go from there. I always knew it was music. I always knew it was performance. But I wasn't too bogged down about what my role would be in that, whether it was as a teacher or as a songwriter or as a DJ, or I didn't really know. You know, so it just gave me the good foundation. Yeah.
And I'm curious, do you ever think if you had gone to say New York or maybe Atlanta or LA, if your style would be different, if your career would be different?
You know, it's funny because I was thinking back the other day to all the meetings that I took about, let's say 7, 8 years ago, when I went and sat with labels and lawyers, and everyone would say to me, well, what are you? What music do you do? I don't understand. Are you R&B? Are you soul? Are you drum and bass? And for that reason, we're going to pass on you because we don't really know. And, you know, I thought to myself, but I love it all. And I feel like I can do it all. You know, and I didn't want to be a jack of all trades, master of none, absolutely. But where I'm at now, people are coming to me because of that. Because of the diversity in my output, because of my affinity with all these different scenes. And it's because I stuck to my guns with that. And, you know, I made a decision. When Ali and I started working together, I said to him, I'm not interested in joining a major label because, no disrespect, because absolutely, if artists want to sign on to a major label and there's a formula that kind of goes along with that, and if you're ready to adhere to that structure, fair enough. But that was never really for me. So, you know, I gave Ali a few grey hairs, but we are where we are now. So, yeah, I'm thankful for that.
It's interesting because kind of with the internet, and they call it the long tail, where now everyone can kind of have a specific style and everyone can find them. But say 10 years ago, that wasn't the case necessarily.
No.
You know, it was about the hits, and you had to kind of fit a certain...
Sure. I mean, they don't really do development deals anymore, really. You know, we're talking about even people like Madonna, Michael Jackson, any of these artists who, when they were signed to labels, they put that behind them, and they had, you know, a team, and it developed the whole thing, whether it was image or whatever. You get people like Lady Gaga now, and the reason she's so, she's a talented lady, full stop, but her success has come with her amalgamation of technology, fashion, music, performance, bringing back that kind of edge. So she really had that in her anyway, and then, you know, they cottoned onto that, and they can help her kind of make it bigger. But really, no one's going to invest in someone who's a diamond in the rough anymore. They don't see that. They want to see the success before the success. And it puts pressure on artists to perform, because if they don't, they get dropped, you know, or they have to pay back a big advance. And it's not a position any young musician should be in, really.
I want to get your thoughts later as far as whether musicians can make themselves on social media and YouTube.
No, absolutely.
But now let's talk about some hits. I mean, I'm sure you've been asked about this a million times, and we're going to ask you. Yeah. The single "Thinking About You" you did with Scottish producer Calvin Harris. Yeah. It's one of the top-selling records in the world in the past year. I think I'm quoting Ali again.
That's crazy.
That's pretty crazy. How has that changed your life?
The beautiful thing about me and Calvin is that Calvin's an old friend. I've known him for
10 years.
Yeah, we're coming on to 11, 12 now. We met about maybe 2001, I'd say. So I just left university, and I was working at a place called Uptown Records in Soho, selling vinyl. And he walked in, young
Before it was
Scottish
cool
lad.
to sell vinyl, right?
Well, this is it. Yeah, now it's come back
cool.
around, hasn't it? Yeah, now it's kitsch. But back then, you know, people used to bring white labels in, and, you know, a lot of the BBC radio DJs and other club DJs used to come in and buy people like Craig David, even Richard Blackwood, things like that. And he came in with a demo, and then he walked out. And I put it on, and this is when he used to work on an Amiga. I don't know if anyone remembers that. Like Atari.
Yeah, it was one of the...
Absolutely. And he had that really analog sound. So his first album, I Created Disco, we had that in an analog form. He gave me that in an analog form. He'd already done it. And I was amazed. I thought he was incredible. And there was just an email on the CD, and I emailed him and I said, "Who are you? You know, what's this about?" And he said, "Well, you know, I'm from Scotland, and I'd love to live in London, but I have nowhere to stay." So I had a spare room, and asked him if he wanted to move in, and he said yes. And yeah, we've been the best of friends ever since. We've written a lot of tracks together. We did a track called "Let Me Know" when we were living together which was also on his Amiga. It took ages. It's all about you have to record the vocal, burn it onto a CD, load it up into a block. There's no auto-tune, there's no tracking, none of that.
Were you recording in your place?
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
he built a vocal booth in his room, which took up most of the room. He had his desk there, and and then he couldn't afford to stay in London. He was working in M&S, Marks and Spencer's. He used to get 2 night buses to get to work in the morning. So I'd be coming home from clubbing and he'd be going to work. And he had to leave. But then it was all the same people that said he'd never make it, who, now he's the biggest star in the world. So it's the biggest fuck you to the record label, to the record industry. I think, he's fantastic and I'm so proud of him.
When you first played that record that he left you, and you liked the sound of it, I'm always curious, when you see an artist like him or like yourself, you might hear a sound that you think, wow, this guy's really talented.
Yeah.
But then does that need to be completely backed up with the drive and the hard work? And have you seen one without the other? Did you know he had both in the beginning, or is it never clear?
I don't know if it's something that I've got. Maybe I have a knack for it, but I feel like anything that comes from a true place, from a place of love and honesty, it doesn't matter. The technicalities don't really matter. The performance doesn't matter. If something is real, you'll know, you'll feel it. And I felt that with him. And there are other people that I saw that in, people like Ed Sheeran, for example. He used to support me when I used to play an acoustic night in North London. And I remember seeing him and telling people, and people were like, no way, like that young boy, he has a long way to go. And I was like, no, there's something about this kid that, and how they perpetuate their careers after that, that's up to them. But there's something about true grit that I think, it shines through, absolutely.
And your 2 albums ago was called The Real. That was your first album on your label, right?
My only album, yeah.
Your only album.
My first and only album, yeah.
It's funny how you say there's something about real, because we put these episodes out, and the great thing about YouTube is that I can see the ones that people love and I can see the ones people don't. And sometimes I think we had a great talk with someone and people are like, whatever. And so they really respond to realness.
Wow.
We're called London Real, but people respond to real people expressing their feelings in a real way. It's strange. With all the bells and whistles and everything, the humans still know something that's genuine and, like you said, comes from a place of love or congruence. Isn't that weird?
I think it's happening now more than ever. The veil is thinner than it ever has been. I think that with everything that's happening in the world and with, we've lived through the biggest advancements in technology and in social patterns, in sexuality and everything, And I think now what's happening is people are really yearning for grassroots. That's why, the smaller businesses are doing well as opposed to the massive, conglomerates and stuff that, after the market crashes and everything. People want a bespoke service. They want to feel like they know the person who's selling them something. So the lady who sells cupcakes, whose company now is worth God knows how much, is going to triumph over a massive chain that just, dishes out generic cakes. Does that make sense?
Totally.
I think there's a real, yearning for realness. Yeah.
Yeah, and people want to see the behind-the-scenes videos more than the scenes video.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. Like, we're going to take a picture after this at the brick wall, but if someone saw a picture with all the lights here, they'd be like, oh, what's that?
Yeah.
And it's strange. And with social media, I guess if you go back to the studio system in Hollywood or the old record label system, it was this product that was chosen and then it was put out and you never knew all the details.
Absolutely.
But these days, everyone wants those and they demand access.
Absolutely.
Do they demand access to your private life too? I mean, you're very active on Twitter.
I am.
As we saw today.
I am. The thing is, I like to have that door open because technology serves a purpose, especially with what we do for a living. So if it's to put across a message or if it's to open the door for fans or people who are interested I can see when people tweet me. I can see why would I want to ignore that? Why would I want to not reach out to someone or not, whether it's in jest or whether it's serious or whatever it is. They have a direct connection to you, which is what Twitter offers. So for me, that's what Twitter serves a purpose for. Things like Instagram, people seem to respond to personal pictures more than they do things that are staged.
Right.
So they want to be part of your life. I think it's because they want to know that they can succeed. And it's not about telling people that unless they are in a creative media that they're not going to succeed, because everyone has a role. And your role might be something that you don't even know how important it is. You might walk past someone in the street who was about to kill themselves and smile at them, and just through that smile you've changed the whole trajectory of their lives, because then they realize that someone cares about them, and that's your role. And I think people are forgetting that it's the tiniest things about us that are so important, and if I can break down those barriers in any way, that's why I don't use, people say to me, oh, you can use those programs that you can amass fans, and every single person that has pressed liked on my Facebook or like on my Facebook or followed me on Twitter, they're people who want to be there. We never get trolls. I never get anyone dissing the music. I never get anyone being horrible. Because they're not being forced to join into something. So yeah, I'm happy with the amount of fans that I've got there because they're there because they want to be there.
That could be a reflection of your realness as well.
You think so?
I do think so. There could be something there. So, you really paid your dues in the music world. I mean, you were in Soho in 2004. Right. I mean, it's funny because you look at a lot of TV shows these days and a lot of YouTube sensations and it's like boom. But, I mean, you were 10 years for you, right? I mean,
15.
More.
Yeah, 15. And my first single I released in 2001, which was on Metalhead's Goldie's label. A couple of guys called Loxy and Ink gave me my first break on a record. In fact, it's when I had to go back to Jordan because I had issues with my visa and I couldn't stay in the country. And I went back and I remember one of them calling me and saying, we've got this track and we know you're not really a singer, but we know that you like music. Would you like to give it a go? I said, yeah. And that was what started it all. And from then I went on to work at Uptown. I started a funk band. We performed at nights with Giles Peterson and things like that. And then I started a record label, drum and bass label with some friends of mine. We were promoting nights, became an MC for a while. I was a touring MC. And then got on the road with Calvin, obviously, as a backing vocalist for his live show. But it's been a constant thing, and I love it, and I wouldn't change a thing. And I'm constantly paying my dues to music because I work for music. It doesn't work for me,
Was there a point in 02 or 03 or 04 or 99 where you were just like, I'm packing this in, I'm going back to Jordan, I'm going to not... No,
not once, no.
Okay. And when you're starting labels and doing these things, I mean, these are entrepreneurial moves,
sure.
And is that something that was always in you or is it in your family or is that...
Absolutely, yeah.
Because a lot of people would be like, a lot of artists come from this frame. I want a label to sign me.
Sure.
How come the label won't sign me? And until they sign me, I'm not going to make anything. I mean, that is a...
Well, that's so defeatist, though. I mean...
Especially, but 10 years ago, before there were all these outlets.
Absolutely.
No
now
iTunes,
with the technological revolution, I suppose, you have more of a platform. You can be a kid in Peru who makes a song in his basement and put it on YouTube and become a sensation overnight. So that's broken down the barriers, and that's really exciting to me, how we can manipulate that into working, the trends and what people want. I think at the end of the day, it's like politics, You can't use what you're good at to cover up what you can't do. You have to use what you're good at to either influence or to be honest about how people can listen to it, can catch on to it, can proliferate it. It's not about making it a personal thing. It's about making it we're in it together kind of thing, And I don't really understand that attitude where people say, until a label signs me, if they're not signing you, there's a reason, And if there's a reason, why would you want them to, Either you fix that or you find another outlet for what you do. I never thought that I would pack in music if I wasn't a singer because I wanted to do something that had to do with music. Like I said before, whether it was as a teacher or as handing out flyers in the street or, working in a record, it doesn't matter. It didn't matter to me. As long as I was working within music in any capacity, that was enough for me,
Do you give advice to people up and coming? They must ask you all the time. And what do you tell people?
I get a lot of people sending me, and I make this a point on Twitter and Facebook to say to people, if you want to reach out, send me, because also you never know where you're going to get people who send you stuff and really exciting music. And nowadays you don't have to have a £30,000 studio. You can have a laptop and a program on there, and you can make just as good. And it's all about the more basic sounds now. People are going back to less busy and less produced stuff. So yeah, I do. When there are people that, I think that's the thing as well. I mean, art's subjective, so I can't ever tell someone that I don't like it. I could tell them technically what's wrong with it, but then again, that's not for me to decide because I'm not the one who's going to give them a job in it, and I don't know what their other attributes are, what they could succeed in otherwise. So what I tell people is, if this is something you want to do, keep going, because if you write a song that's good enough that a radio DJ will play it, a radio DJ plays it, clubs play it, it grows from there. So you're only as good as the last song you've written. And keep writing if it's not working. Keep writing, absolutely. Keep writing, keep evolving. And you have to publish it, right? You have to put it out there. You do. To move on and let it get criticism and then go to the next. It's a bit easier now. It's a bit easier. I mean, I'm published by Notting Hill and they're fantastic and it's like a family, but you don't really need to have that anymore. You don't really need to have, people say to me, I really need a manager. I'm like, why? Why do you need a manager? I mean, again, it's hard for me to speak from a position because I've got those things, but those things came to me. I didn't go. If you go to them, if you're talented, of course an agent's going to take you on. Of course a manager's going to take you on. But then you're not priority. You know, they'll put you on the back burner. They'll have you there because they know that you're going to do something. But until you do, and that creates a lack of motivation. That makes people stale. You know, because they're sitting there and they're trying to be creative and they're trying to, oh, am I doing this right? Don't worry about it. Just keep doing what you're doing, and those things will come. They'll come to you.
Let's talk about the creative process.
Okay.
How do you create?
Yikes.
Is this about, because people have this vision that you book the studio and you go in the studio and, you know, you just bust it out or you write it here and you make it and then you go home. And I'm guessing it's nothing like that. But
I think it's different for everyone. I think with myself, most of the time I'll be put in a session with a producer and we'll either make a beat together or he'll play me something that he's done before. With my album, for example, that's the best example I can give, I wrote with a man called Will Sims, who's a ridiculously talented French producer, and him and I just built the beats from scratch together. We locked ourselves in a basement studio for about 4 or 5 months, and we lived it, you know? And, you know, when he was playing stuff on the keys or whatever, I'd start to write. We'd bounce words off each other, and that's kind of my creative process. Or someone might send me a beat, I'll work on it at home. It's different for everyone, you know? With me, most of the time I work from the chorus backwards, but it depends. It depends what the track is and what the vibe is, absolutely.
do you play instruments?
I played the piano. I got my grade 8 when I was 16, and regrettably haven't really been following it up because I was classically trained, and the music I do now is, I mean, I hate to say far removed from it, but if we're talking about chords and structures that are more blues and jazz based, which is what influences my writing more, it's harder to, you know, to build around that. But yeah, I am musically trained.
Because we had Beardy Man on here who has done a bunch of things.
Yeah.
I mean, he's fantastic. But that was kind of his advice at the end. He said, learn an instrument. I'm pretty sure that was Beardy Man. And, you know, because he said with that, as a singer, then you can learn so much from that. But
it's funny because Beardy Man and I, we used to go to the same illegal raves back in the day. This is like 10 or so years ago. And he did that song with, oh, goodness me. He had a famous song recently.
Oh, yeah, the one.
You know the one?
Yeah,
with Fatboy Slim.
Yeah,
Fatboy Slim one. And when I heard it and someone said it was Beardy Man.
Eat, Sleep, Raver,
he was,
Treat.
and he was recorded outside a club, and I was like, wicked, he's still up to the same thing, you know, and he's wonderful, you know, he's a great guy and super talented, super driven, but all these names seem to be coming back around, so we're all part of this movement, I'm hoping, because, you know, if people don't remember my name now, it doesn't really matter. It's about, if one day someone goes, if Ayah Marar could do it, then I could do it. I can do it. Then we've done the right thing. But sorry, to go back to your original question, you were asking me about the
instruments. I mean, you don't go back to piano. You sit in with your producer.
Absolutely.
He's playing music.
Yeah.
I mean, do you ever think I don't know what instrument it would be if I played the violin or if I had my sax.
Guitar is a really good one.
Yeah.
I mean, I can play the first 2 bars of Nothing Else Matters and Wonderwall on guitar. That's about it. That's as far as I get.
So it's not necessary. It's not absolutely necessary.
Absolutely not. No, I'm not trained in singing. I'm not classically trained in singing or anything like that. I taught myself to sing, so it's not necessary.
How important are lyrics?
Very important.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, because, you know, you are a singer and a songwriter, and so obviously you write the lyrics, but then the way you perform them can vary so many different ways, and that can make a song or break a song. And so how do you start? You do start with the lyrics because the message has to be there? You
know, I mean, sometimes it will be, I'll start with a melody, so I'll hear something over a beat and then you fit the lyrics in. And it's funny because I've been listening back to a lot of songs that I wrote a long time ago, and at the time I wasn't really aware of the weight of the lyrics, and they've started to make sense to me a bit more now than they did at the time, which shows that it's a subconscious thing. But again, it ties into when it comes from a real place. So again, I can't fault anyone for the technicality of the lyrics, or whether it's a pop song where it's a bit more throwaway. It doesn't really matter. As long as the sentiment behind it is real, the actual lyrics, I'm not saying you have to be profound or anything. You know, that works for some people, it doesn't work for others. And also, the music buying public, they might not want to sit there and have to think about it. They just want to have a dance on a Saturday night, you know? I have nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. So it's just about doing it from a real place. And so
are you meticulous with your lyrics? Are you... Like when it's, are you?
I was a bit more adamant that I was right about lyrics when I first started, when I was younger. So I actually used to work with a man called MC Conrad, who he was part of a crew called Good Looking, and they're a drum and bass crew who did a lot of kind of they pioneered the whole intelligent drum and bass movement. And he was my sensei in a way when I started emceeing. And I remember I used to write 16 bars and I'd recite them to him and be like, no, do it again. Do it again. It was kind of like Karate Kid, you know. And you get so frustrated, like, why? But this is amazing, why? And it's like, no, but there's something to just breaking this. It's humility. It's learning to be humble about stuff, not thinking that you're incredible off the bat. Some people are. I mean, I don't know how Stevie Wonder or Michael Jackson feel because I'm not them, but that's a different thing, you know. There's something that comes inherently to people, or that's sort of inbuilt, that a lot of us, especially if we're trying to break into a commercial or consumer society, we have to adhere to certain things, or we have to put it in a way that people can digest, you know?
And should you edit your lyrics? Is that the thing that he was pushing when he was waxing on and waxing off?
Yeah, absolutely.
He was making you like cut it and make it tighter and get a better word. And,
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and he'd play me a lot of Biggie, and you know the way the weighting of the phrases. I
was just thinking about Biggie.
Were you really?
Yeah.
So yeah, he used to, and it's all the kind of timing and the way. Because he said to me, it doesn't, just because it rhymes and it fits into a scheme, doesn't mean that's clever. You know, it's about having a lilt to it, putting a spin on it that's your own. You know, making it something that's unique. So I think that was the message behind it.
Right, and Biggie kind of brought that in a unique way. Incredible. Because he was, and when you listen to it now, like I remember I listened to the same Biggie song for 50 times.
Which one is that? Oh, just
it was
not Bone Thugs and Harmony one.
No, it wasn't that one. I can hear it in my head, but I can't think of the name of it. No, it wasn't. It was
I'm trying to see if they're the ones that I loved.
Cubans with the Jesus piece.
Like yeah.
And I remember I listened to it. I was training one time in the gym, and I caught a lyric that I hadn't caught ever before, and I was just like, Jesus.
But then you've got Tupac and Biggie who were doing that same thing. But what Tupac was doing was he was an actor, a model, a musician. You see all these guys now rolling around with like 10 deep with their entourage. This man was rolling through the hood with the top down at the height of his career on his own. You know what I mean? And that's aside from the fact that he was amazing at with his delivery and his personality. With Biggie, it was more about that focus with the lyrical content and the way. And you know, they were friends for a reason.
Because they had similar styles.
Prophets.
Right, prophets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to what Biggie says, I mean, it stands up. Like you said, it's come from some genuine place where people are like, wow.
Absolutely.
And I mean, they're just words, but obviously they're not just words.
No.
And he was so economic with those words.
Absolutely.
Now it's going through my head.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Do you ever play with hip hop as a style?
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
do you prefer one or the other?
I can't say that I do. I mean, I work with a lot of MCs. Illiman's on the road with me, and he's fantastic. He's part of a crew called Problem Child, and what they're doing is kind of an amalgamation of grime and hip hop, and that's what I love about London as well. The way we put things together, how it's influenced by our, not just what we listen to, but our cultures and our ability to perform certain things. But absolutely, I draw for it in terms of beats and beat production. Kimo, who I work with, is part of the UK hip hop scene and has been for a long time, and he does all of my vocal recordings. So it's funny because before me, he didn't really work with many vocalists, and before him, I hadn't really worked with many beat makers, hip hop beat makers. So coming together, to do what I do now is it's a really interesting way of bringing it together, I think.
You were a DJ for a while at Herbal, right around here, right?
Yeah.
How has that affected your music? What was DJing like? Why did you DJ?
Oh, I loved it so much. I was more of a selector than a DJ. I wasn't really a beat matcher. I leave that to professionals. But I played a lot of reggae and funk and soul and stuff that really is hard to mix at the best of times. So I'd spin back a lot and slow things down. And, I wasn't even aware of the politics within reggae when I started playing, because there are a lot of Rastas and Yardis that used to hang out at Herbal that at the beginning they'd be like, who is this chick who thinks she's playing? People would come up and like take the record off and chuck it across the room and stuff. And by the end of the 4 years that I'd been there, obviously we were a family. But I loved it because first of all, there's something about vinyl that makes you feel like it's like a hug when you walk into a room. It might not be as crisp as digital and I think about vinyl and I go, you know what, I can kind of understand digital, signals are sent, all this kind of, but I still can't understand how you put a needle on a piece of acetate in a groove and it produces that sound. You know what I'm saying?
It's still pretty fascinating.
It's unbelievable, and you can touch it, you can see it's there. It's like skin. and a heartbeat, and it's human, you know, almost.
So you miss those days.
I miss them,
of
yeah. I miss them. I mean, it's different now. It's different. It's coming back around, obviously, with Serato and things like that. But I'm glad I did it when I did. And when people ask me to DJ, I'll always ask them for a pair of decks. Not even Serato, because I'm useless at that. But I'll do it for the love, yeah.
And would you ever go back and do that again? Or?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Pair of decks, I'm there, absolutely.
Pair of decks, you're there.
Yeah.
I want to talk about something topical.
Okay.
I want to talk about booty, because you tweeted something out about this, and I want to talk about this too. You tweeted, quote, is it the law that all pop songs have to talk about booty these days?
Yeah.
And, funny enough, I saw a recent video released by Iggy Azalea and J-Lo.
Yeah.
And we can get on to the rest of the booty videos, that's fine. But
that's the one that made me tweet it, though.
Oh, okay.
That's the video that made me say that.
I didn't know that. So
yeah.
I saw that video that came out. Now, I heard about Iggy about 6 months ago, and I'm a fan of Fancy, and I'm a fan of Work. I like the videos. I kind of like her message. I feel like she's kind of empowering in a certain way. Okay, you might hate me. That's okay.
No, I don't hate you.
But then when I saw this J-Lo thing, I was like waiting for the joke, because a lot of her videos there's a joke, or that she's making fun of something, and I was like, okay, I'm giving this. Okay, where's the joke? Okay, I'm like, you can't be serious. We're not really doing this show, especially. And I was expecting a little more from Iggy, because I thought she was bringing something a little new. Am I just an old man ranting? Or what's going on?
Well,
here?
then I'm an old woman if you're an old man.
Why does Iggy have to do this? Why does J-Lo have to do this? She's very accomplished. Why do we have to put booties up there and talk about that?
It's so funny, because the first thing that came out was the Nicki Minaj video with the I Like Big Butts sample.
Yeah, the Anaconda. Yeah, I watched that today just in preparation for this song.
When I saw Anaconda, I thought to myself, do you know what? This woman has outsold Michael Jackson album sales this year. She came from the hood. She's still tongue. She's a caricature of herself. You know what I mean? And she's using a song that initially was derogatory to women to bring it back and empower. So I understand that to an extent. I'm kind of like, you know what, Nicki Minaj, go true, girl, because it's funny still, and the video is still.
And she is parodizing herself in the video, right? She's not taking it seriously.
Exactly my point.
Right, okay.
But this is what happens in popular music. When something is popular, then there's a surgence of videos that are similar or imitating this, or thinking, because that's a trend, let's jump on it. So that's where I think people like Iggy go wrong. Now, the woman, as far as I'm concerned, it's not my kind of thing, not bringing her down in any way. It's something for everyone. If that's what they want to listen to, absolutely. But what upset me was more jumping on something. You don't need to. You're already a very successful artist, And more to the point is that what Nicki was doing or is doing is very different to the journey of all these other women. So empowerment, I'm all down for it. You want to get your bum out, you want to get your boobs out, do whatever you want, because it's coming back around now. And if you want to be empowered by that, that's just not my cup of tea, because I'm a bit shy when it comes to that stuff. But
it's coming back around. You mean that it's becoming empowering?
Yes, that women are reclaiming. They're reclaiming it. You know. But I just didn't see the need for someone like J-Lo to do. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that, especially with the fact that they're so lucky to be in a position where people look up to them and people listen to what they're saying. So you want to trivialize it, that's fine. But then, like you say, make sure that it's felt that it's a parody, that it's a trivialization, as opposed to making it like, this is me, I'm back now, and check out the song that I can't. It's upsetting, yeah.
Maybe this is like an April Fool's joke we don't know yet.
Maybe.
Because I couldn't even watch the rest of the video. I was just come on.
I know.
Because I have respect for what J-Lo did for back in the day and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so she's kind of like an icon. And then Iggy's kind of on her way up, and she's got some messages there that I like. They're empowering women. If it wasn't for some of the words in her lyrics, I would like my 10-year-old to watch some of it, because she takes the power, and then she knows she can parody as well with things like Fancy. And then they just did a train wreck. So shame on you, Iggy and J-Lo.
There you go. And also,
bring it back.
I have to tell you, Brian, I work with, I write with a lot of talented artists, and there's a young man in particular, Kieran Allen, and a young lady called Sona Relay, and they are incredible. They're both from the UK, but they're doing the whole American thing in terms of like their output. They're over in LA all the time, songwriting and stuff like that, and they're good kids, and they have a good message, and they still can be sexy, and they can be outspoken, and they write and they sing and they dance and they look beautiful. And I think to myself, that space is being taken up by people who are misusing it, when there are people that are ready and hungry and real. It's coming back around, and I just feel, you know what, if I can make it my mission to make sure that those kids replace what's going on. It's my one-woman mission right now.
Are you optimistic? I mean, you know, as much as we're talking about these videos, you know, Nikki has 226 million views or something.
Yeah, Nikki's good, man. Nikki's doing her thing. We can't touch Nikki.
We like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you optimistic that the real music will rise above the fray?
Yeah.
I mean, because we can put down Iggy and J-Lo and the booty, but ultimately the consumers are pushing them to the top.
It's not even exactly, but people will consume what they're given.
Okay.
So we need to find a way we need to come together, man. Like the mainstream are using underground techniques and methods and sounds, and we're giving it. So why not have it as a two-way street? Why not help each other? Because obviously both of us are struggling. If we come up together, we'll stay up together, and if we come back down, we can have a party and we'll be cool. But if you go up on your own, when you come back down, there's no one checking for you when you come back down. So what's the point of that? Let's do it together. We've all learned by doing what we do in our spheres. So why not bring it together? And now is the time more than ever, because if we're talking about making it like a political movement, what better way to show the world that if music can do it, and music is all about love, and, you know, I can't even tell you the impact that certain songs have made in my life growing up, and, you know, how music was there for me when people weren't, you know, and they made me feel like I had love and a family and understanding and all this stuff, and that's why it pains me to see it misused. But I'm hopeful, because it's not about pointing the finger at people for doing it wrong. No one's necessarily doing it wrong, but it's about, don't forget that we're not alone in this, you know?
Where's the music industry going?
I'd like to say it's revolution, but I don't know.
Revolution how? As in
It's going to have to come down to go back up again.
Okay, the label system or the status quo?
I think that's already imploding, yeah,
okay.
in itself. Because really, nowadays, you don't need... The model for a major label was about having it all in-house. So you had your radio pluggers, your publisher, your PR, your stylist, everything, your video makers, directors. They were all under one roof. So a label would commission all these people in-house. But nowadays, everyone's freelance with that. So as long as you have a bit of capital, which you can make from working a 9 to 5 and saving up, for example, if you're very serious about your dream, save some money and then put it into building your company, as it were, and bringing in the people that want to be there because not only are they talented at their job, but they love what you're doing and they want to support it. And that's how we make it good from the inside out.
Okay, I like those words. I saw a picture one time that Ice-T tweeted out. I'm a big Ice-T fan.
Me too.
And he was taking pictures with fans. He's known always as being really cool with his fans. And he said, you know, something to the tune of, you know, I do it the old-fashioned way. I make fans one at a time.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I was just wondering what you think about that. Do you think that a sudden acceleration in a career is sometimes will be followed by a sudden descent? You know, when you talk to these young artists like you're talking about, is it just like, look, this is a grind, this is about putting the time in, and it's not about instant fame?
When you get to the top, there's nowhere else to go. So why are you in a rush to get to the top? It's the experience of getting, it's like saying you're going to learn everything there is to learn. You're never going to learn everything, but the beauty is in training yourself to be able to understand more, to experience more, to be sympathetic, to be empathetic, to be more knowledgeable. It's a journey, you know. It's like the pursuit of happiness. People think that happiness is a place you have to go. No, it's not. I'm sat here with Brian right now. I'm happy. Life's tough. Tomorrow something might happen that makes me upset, but I go, you know what? I can be happy because I was sat with Brian last night and I was happy, and that's what fuels me particularly. So to believe in happiness, or to believe in that. And for me, it's not really happiness, it's fulfillment. Because who's to say that happiness is right and sadness is wrong? You can't really say that. Some people, I was actually fueled by sadness to write my album, for example, by heartbreak. We need it as artists.
Some of the best albums.
Yeah, there you go.
Gwen Stefani's breakthrough album was all about heartbreak.
Exactly. With the guy in the band,
bass player,
wasn't it? Yeah. So really, people can't be confused about it. There's no rush to get that. And again, you have to enjoy the journey. So I'm saying, of course, have landmarks within that make you happy, that make you feel like you've achieved something, that make you feel fulfilled. But it's not a do or die thing. It's an experience. You have to fill your time somehow. And why are you, what's the rush, man?
That's well said. What's the rush? It's interesting because people think that famous people and rich people don't have problems. And you hang out with all these people all the time, and they have just as many problems as everyone else does. And
Sorry to interrupt you, Brian, but coming back to the iced tea thing, it's funny you say that because I used to say, we haven't got the resources of a major label, but what I can do is I can change it one club at a time, one festival at a time. So every time we performed, I'd say that's how we do it. That's how we spread the message, as opposed to, when people have more resources at their beck and call, or, money, they can proliferate easier. But yeah, sorry to come back to that.
Just to go back to that theme, I agree, and I think you have to earn them one at a time, and that's what I was saying. And even with the show at London Real, when we started off like really basic, and it's just like each episode gets out there, and people are like, okay, we see what you're doing. And funny enough, I just read an article. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's called 1,000 True Fans, and it was written a few years ago. It's a fascinating article, especially for an up and coming any kind of artist. And the theory is if you can get 1,000 true fans, and this is a fan that will buy any album that you make, that will drive 100 miles to watch you perform. If you can get 1,000 of those, and say they spend roughly $100 on your material every year, then you can live on. You should be able to live on 60 grand a year and be an artist. And so the idea is, if you can just think about those 1,000 true fans, don't think about the million. Just think you need 1,000, which is it's a doable number.
Absolutely.
And just concentrate on those. That once you get the 1,000, then you can be artistic and free and create the rest of your life. And by getting those, you'll focus on the correct message and everything you should do that will scale to more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we're not making money off record sales these days. That's not how we're making our money. We make our money off syncs, off touring, off merchandise. So unless you're Lady Gaga or Nicki Minaj or someone like that, you're not really seeing any surplus revenue from your record sales, from your album sales. So we have to do it that way. We have to do it in a way that, I'd have to write for other people. I have to maybe do a show that I wouldn't necessarily like to do, but then equally by doing it, I'm going to gain a couple of fans, like you say. And it's about finding a balance within that. I'm very lucky to do what I love for a living, but it's by no means a given thing that you should, or that what you do for a living defines you necessarily. It's about making it more of your personal role in life is about what you're here to do, as opposed to whether you're a doctor or a street cleaner or a teacher or a musician. We're lucky that we can do what we do for a living. But again, it doesn't come without costs. It comes at it can be isolating, it can be lonely. It's stressful in terms of output when people are depending on you to reach a certain target or to perform in a certain way and it's the highs are high and the lows are lower because you're doing what you love for a living.
What is the hardest thing about what you do?
I want to say accepting that you're alone for a lot of the time. And I don't mean alone as in no friends or no fans or whatever it is, but it's a lonely place to be when no one really understands. It doesn't just apply to myself or my trade. It's just feeling like no one really is understanding you.
The creative process?
It's everything.
Okay.
It's because it ties in. The creative process is you as a human being, is you as an individual, and what's put on you in relation to that. So it becomes a lonely place. And I can't even imagine how people who are higher up, or who the stellar fame that people like Michael Jackson had, and I can't even imagine what that must be like if I have a couple of moments where I'm just like, oh God, you know what I mean? It's Is it because of all the pressure people are pulling on you and do this and do that and help me out with this? It's for me, I've always been, I get even defensive about not being understood or being misunderstood, and that's my fault as well, because sometimes I might not put it across in the right way. It might seem aggressive, or it might seem like I'm pushing people away or whatever. It's just being misunderstood is a big fear.
How are you misunderstood? What's the typical way people misunderstand you?
If people misunderstand my intentions, so it's hard to say that you're doing the right thing for somebody or something when they don't want that for themselves. And I think that was my problem for a long time. I'd say to myself, oh my God, but you can do this and you're so talented and so why are you choosing not to? And they'd get angry with me, and that would make me feel like, do you think that I'm pressuring you to do something you don't want to do? Because that's not the case. It's that I see something in you that I want to, and then their misunderstanding of me would make me feel,
These are people you're collaborating with?
Everything, yeah. People I collaborate with, friends, anyone in life, yeah.
Okay. So you're pretty intense.
I can be. Yeah.
And you think they misunderstand you because you're trying to make them better, but they think you're just...
It's not fair. It wasn't fair of me to do that. I don't think it's fair to do that because everyone's journey is their own. But I think through that misunderstanding, that isolation came and that loneliness came, and it's just a cycle.
Is it harder on tour, or is it harder when you're in the studio trying to create something for your album?
I love being on tour so much. I love being on the road. If I could live my life on stage, I'd do that. If I could do 90% on stage and the rest off, I'd be cool with that.
Okay.
And I was on tour, when I was on tour with Calvin, there was 15 guys on a tour bus and me. So it can get...
Sounds like it'd be smelly.
Crazy. It was, absolutely. Yeah, it was rowdy and smelly and it was crazy. But it didn't matter what was happening in between because we were getting to places to get on stage. To get in front of... I'd never been in front of 20,000 people until I went on the road with Calvin, and it's incredible. It's an incredible feeling. But studio, it's different. I mean, with the studio, that's my personal journey. It's something that I can do with somebody that not only I think is talented, but I love as well, because all the people that I work with, I have such love for and such respect for. And it's the coming together of those two things and the output of that, and then seeing how that does and how people react to it. I love that. So I think that, they're very different. One is more personal on the outside and one's more personal on the inside, if that makes sense.
And when you're performing, is it very different than if you're performing with Calvin than if you're performing on your own stuff?
Yeah, because there's no pressure with Calvin because everyone's looking at him. So so you can be more free. You can be more, we used to have fun and look at each other and just have a bit of a laugh, but the pressure was on him because it was his show. Whereas when it's my show, the pressure's on you. So it's easier when you're doing it in the background.
Okay. Why haven't you moved to LA, and have you thought about it? I always think musicians are always drawn there. Yeah. And they probably are, at some point made a decision they're going to stay in London. What's your relationship like with LA?
I'm there quite a lot, actually. I'm there about 2-3 times a year. LA is cool. I mean, I've made some really good friends in LA, and I've met some fantastic producers, and the UK movement is so strong in LA, which is what I love. They're really looking to us for style, for sound. Yeah, it's beautiful.
That's because we have style and sound, right?
It's crazy though, Brian, because I was sat with a young man called Alex in LA not too long ago, and I said, so how are you getting there? He said, I'm getting the train. And I thought to myself, the UK is... LA kids are becoming English, and the English kids are becoming, everyone wants to drive here. And it's like it's swapping around. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the music they were listening to, they recognized, they didn't pull me up on Calvin, they pulled me up on a song I'd done with a guy from San Diego, actually, Castle, who's an underground music producer. He's an electronic producer. And they said, you did that track with Castle. And he's a guy that not even the underground knew about in England. So it was interesting to me that the LA youth are kind of catching on to that scene a bit more. And so that's why I love kind of dipping in and out of there. There's something about LA that I find a little bit disconcerting, just in terms of there's an unrest there. There's an uneasiness there. And I don't know whether that's born of the frustration that people feel at coming to the land of milk and honey and not having a drop of milk and honey, and working their asses off and not seeing any of that. There's something that breeds
there's a hugely transient population.
You know what I mean?
There.
So there's something about that I can't really come to terms with, which London doesn't really do, because London is so much more open with that. But there might be a shift. I don't know. That we might be living a shift now.
It's fascinating what you say. It's definitely, the Americans are always looking over here.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Downton Abbey, right? They always want to know what's going on in London. I've got more people that watch this show in America than in London.
I love it. Yeah.
And so they're looking always to Paris for fashion, and so the Yanks always want to know what's going on over here.
But then that's what America. That's where everyone came from anyway. I mean, I think people are now starting to catch on to their roots again, and kind of, I love that. I love that people look to Europe and the Far East, or the Middle East, whatever it is, for inspiration, and because that's where you're all from,
Yeah, we're all from. Yeah. LA is strange. I'm from San Diego, but LA is like night and day.
Yeah.
And I agree, it's got some weird energy. There is a huge number of people that come there every year to find their dream. A lot of them don't.
Yeah.
It's a strange old town.
So strange. Yeah.
It's got a lot of weird things going on.
Yeah, but it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun, and I was there for Christmas one year, and it was just vacant.
Oh my God, it must be crazy on Christmas.
It was like there was no one there, and I was like, what's going on?
Christmas,
and everyone's like, no one is from LA. No one's really from LA. And I was like, wow, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's it like being in a music video? I saw you in the Thinking About You video. You're on a boat.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
I'm on a boat.
You're on a boat, and then you're getting attacked by Somali pirates. What's it like shooting a music video? Is it all glamour? Is it fun? Is it hard work?
I mean, I tell you what, it depends. With the Calvin videos, yeah, absolutely, because there's money in that, and they're whipping you around from pillar to post, and you're getting your makeup and hair done, and it's glamorous. With the ones that we do, I don't know what I prefer. Actually, no, I say I prefer, but it's so much easier doing the bigger videos because people do everything for you, but that's just lazy. But
some of the greatest videos are guerrilla videos, right?
Exactly. You know? And I was just going to say that. I mean, the Cross the Line, for example, a song I did, and I hope we don't get in trouble for this, but we had to climb over fences to get into this quarry that's, you know, and shoot on a camera. There was only 4 of us, and it was all, you know, it started to rain, and we were scared we were going to get rained in this place and get airlifted out. And that was really exciting. And to see that now there are, I don't know, like 3-4 million views on that video.
Where'd you shoot that?
We shot it in a quarry up north somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm scared to say where it is. Not scared, I never fear, but worried
but
about
people
implicating
can feel
people.
That it had that guerrilla.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so. Yeah, and obviously that was put out by Hospital Records, so they have a big fan base and they helped us push that. But you know, Base Soldiers was the last video that I shot, which was my last single, and that was an EP that I put out on my label. And Base Soldiers was about, I brought in all of the bass music heads, DJ Fresh, Stamina, Jenna G, Funkcase, invited them all down to just shoot against a black screen and just have them dancing. And I just wanted to kind of take it back to that. It's like, guys, this is what we do. You know?
Yeah, it looked great, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Everyone was having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You can tell.
Listen, and behind it was great because everyone was drinking, and eating. And, you know, even when Fresh turned up and he's a megastar, you know, everyone was kind of throwing jokes at him and everyone was having a bit of banter because it wasn't like, oh, you know, the talent's here. Because he's real. You know, I've known this guy for a long time and he's been on the scene a long time. And he's having his success now, deservedly so, because he's a really talented cat. But it was just, it was family. Yeah, it was a family vibe. I loved it.
Talk to me about Hussle Girl as a label. Mm-hmm. Why start it? You know, is it important to have your own label these days? Is it hard work? You know, what was going through your mind when it happened? And has it changed?
Honestly, Brian, I'll tell you, I needed an outlet for the album. I wanted to have a place where it could be born, where we could push it out in conjunction with Transmission here and Radical Records in America, obviously, and various people who've distributed it around the world. But we wanted to have a home for the real. So Hussle Girl really was my way of using myself as a guinea pig, so that when I start to sign artists, because that's what we want to do. We want to manage and we want to be an agency, but I want it to be a place where it can be freelance. People can come to us and, you know, we make things happen. I might put you with a team to help a certain artist for a certain reason. And that's how we want to build Hussle Girl. It's not necessarily just a record label, but I don't exactly know what it is right now. I just don't like defining it because we don't know.
I don't think you need to know what it is these days.
There you go.
I think it's better if you don't know.
There you go. Thank you.
Because I don't even know what that means anymore.
There you go.
A label. I mean, it used to mean something because it used to mean a capital and a distribution network, and it doesn't necessarily mean that anymore. Nope. And you might not want that capital with the strings attached. We had an artist in here somewhere that said, you know, someone was talking about, oh, I'm getting signed, and they were like, do you know how much that's costing you?
Yep.
Yeah, well, they gave me $25,000. Okay, that's costing you. You know,
got to pay that back as well. Yeah. That's not for you. You're
right.
Paying that back. That's an advance. They're not just giving you free money.
It's, you know, I don't know if you know Scroobius Pip, but we had him in here.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
You know, he made a guerrilla video too where he had one shot where he was shaving his hair and he lit something on fire in like a cargo transport. And he started his speech development records and he has some of his, you know, people that he knows really well that he's signing. And, you know, it sounds like a similar type journey, but it sounds like a difficult journey as well.
It is. Again, anything that you do that you have a vested interest in or a personal interest in is going to be harder. But then a friend of mine once said to me that anything done with love might take a little bit longer to get there, but when it does, it's there to stay.
Have you always had this with love theme?
Yeah.
It's really resonating.
Is it?
Yeah. Do you know who you remind me of?
Who?
Okay. So early on in London Real days, we embraced the psychedelic called ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And it was something we did. It was one of our huge breakout shows in the beginning. I was terrified about doing it. I have an old career in banking, and I thought once I drink ayahuasca
what did you
on air,
think? Because I'm quite
I would
interested.
never be allowed back in my old
and
career.
And my name's in it as well, funny enough.
Oh, yeah, that is true. And so we found this shaman that was female shaman. She's wonderful. We call her Susie on air, and
Susie.
but she reminds me a lot of you, as in like everything's coming from a loving place, and like that loving energy just kind of exudes and gets places. But did you always have this, or is this something that's come with age? I mean that in a good way.
No, absolutely. That's absolutely true. I've had the feeling, and I've had the it's come from that place, but I've never known how to express it. And I find it's lovely to speak to you, because I feel a bit, it's easier to talk to you about it than other people. Sometimes I feel like I have to modify the way I say it, because if you say the word too many times, either it devalues it for people, or they think it's cheesy, or they think, but
it's a strange word, love. I think the Greek have 6 different words for love.
Oh, there you go. But what is it? You know? For me, that's what God is to me. God is love, and my religion is love, and that's kind of, why would I want to live my life in any other way? But that doesn't mean that it works for everybody in terms of having to teach people how to do it. It's something you feel, you know. And if you need to like any religions or any, you know, anything where you have to adhere to things, you need something that keeps you in line, that you have to adhere to. That's what keeps me in line. You know, that's what makes me stick to. And what the beautiful thing about it is, I don't have to think about it. That it's natural and it's real.
Were you like this 10 years ago? What was the 23, 24-year-old, you know, Ayah like? What were you like?
I still do dress like
intense?
Yeah, I was actually.
In everyone's face?
I think I was a bit more.
How come this isn't happening right now, and I'm going to do this, and fuck you guys?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I never got sort of angry or sort of tear out about it, but I was a little more animated. I used to, and I still do at times, dress like a 16-year-old boy. I used to go to raves and just sit there in a corner on my own and kind of listen to what was happening, and sort of, I was very eager and very, I can't imagine ever feeling differently to how I'm feeling now, but it's how I'm relaying it that's changed, yeah.
Eager, anxious?
Yeah. I mean, anxious is like saying nervous. When people ask me, are you nervous before going on stage? Not nervous, anxious, eager. Yeah, I suppose that's the word. It's more that you want it to go well. So it's, again, to not be misunderstood if you do something that's not to character or not, you know.
What is, like, I'm just thinking to myself, 5 years from now, what's on your, not bucket list, but what's on your list?
We were talking about that the other day, funnily enough.
Really, the bucket?
Go ahead.
But what's on your list? Is it, you know, that Hussle Girl becomes a certain size, or is it that you're now performing in front of those 20,000 people as opposed to performing with Calvin? Well, what's on your mind?
I never thought that this would be the case, but right now, it's my starting a family, you know. I have my man, and I have my job, which I'm very, very lucky to have both of those things, because I thought I'd only have work forever, and even having that was beautiful to me, and I loved it, and I still do. But now it's about finding that balance of life and career, which I never thought I'd have the chance to do. Putting the love that I put into my work, into building my own family, which doesn't necessarily have to mean biologically a family. It's just building it's a tribe, you know, an army. And that's really where I'm at with that.
And that's happening with your label and other places? Yeah,
absolutely. And I'm not I think it's important, and at this point, to tell everyone, don't have too fixed a set of achievement. Have a goal, absolutely. Have things that you want to achieve by a certain time, but no, especially within music, you can't plan anything. So work around it, but if it doesn't happen, then don't think you're a failure. Don't panic. It's okay. There'll be a reason, and that'll be apparent, maybe not right then, but your despondency will affect your work and will affect the scene negatively. So keep your head up.
Okay, well said there. How do you collaborate with people? I was talking to Scroobius, and he was like, I did a track, and Travis from Blink was doing my drums. I was like, how'd you do that? And he's like, he emailed it to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, so, I mean, is it true? Do you collaborate like virtually now these days?
Yeah, well, Castle, who I mentioned earlier on, I'd heard one of his remixes, I can't remember if it was online or on a radio show, and I just tweeted him. I've never met him. And we've done 3 tracks together, which have been on his albums. And I've just basically gone into Chemo's, recorded the vocal, sent them to Castle. He's put them on tracks. And we have this relationship.
And you still haven't met him?
Never met him. Never met him. I know I love him, but I never met him. Yeah.
That's a little weird.
It's weird.
But is that the way it is these days?
You know, for us, I think for underground artists more so. Because with major artists like that, they'll put them in sessions. It's all very kind of built. But with us, we have to. It's guerrilla warfare, you know?
Right, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
By any means necessary.
Yes, sir.
I want to talk about the radio really quick. You also do some hosting on the radio.
Yeah.
Everyone that's sat in that seat from a musician perspective, whether it's Akala or Ashley Walters or even Scroobius, all had radio love in the beginning of their careers. And I don't think it's a coincidence that I was still talking to them as musicians. So how important is it to get radio in this day of the internet? And was that as important for you too coming up?
Well, now that radio has become digital as well, it means that radio is the internet, you know? I think that, again, we're all parts of different pieces of a puzzle that together make up the music scene. So having radio DJs play our songs means that people get to listen to it, means people come and check you out online. So it's a cycle, you know? And I think with radio in particular, as far as I'm concerned, I've always been interested in broadcast. Not necessarily, I've loved the shows that I've done for the BBC and for radio stations back home in Jordan, which have revolved around music, but I'm not necessarily set on it just being musical, the interaction that I have on radio. I just like the idea of having a forum where people feel like they're part of a discussion perhaps, or they can interact, whether it's online or on the telephone, or it's just a direct line to human beings.
So you could talk about what's on your mind.
Absolutely.
You can talk to other people.
Yeah. Look at LBC, for example. I mean, I listen to that all the time. James O'Brien, I think that's fantastic. And they have things like the Mystery Hour where people can phone in and they can learn things. It's wonderful. It's interactive. It's still an interactive medium, so yeah.
And is it still a necessary gateway for any musical artist? Do you have to get radio love?
It's worrying. I mean, it was worrying. I don't feel that anymore, but Radio 1 had a real monopoly on, if you didn't get Radio 1, you weren't successful. Right. But I don't think that's the case anymore. I think now with the rise of digital stations and other stations, radio stations, that it's not as important anymore. And I think if we keep putting emphasis on the one, it's just bad news for people. So I think getting like you say, by any means necessary, get the songs out however you want to get them out, and if they're good, they'll get heard. Stand on the street corner and play them, you know. Doesn't matter. What does a day in your life look like? What would we be surprised to see you doing? I clean a lot. I tidy a lot. Yeah. Yeah. I used to look down. When people would see me tidying and say to me that, oh, you know, you're being neurotic, and I started to feel bad about it. I was like, why? I don't love necessarily, if I had someone to do it for me, that would be great. But I like organizing things. And then someone said to me that it's quite a Buddhist thing, that when monks first join, when they go to the temples, they have the younger guys on sweeping and tidying, because you organize your thoughts when you're alone, and you can. So that's something that I don't know if people will be surprised. People that know me aren't surprised, obviously, because they know I'm neurotic when it comes to that. But yeah, an average day writing, I hit a few emails and listen to people's music. Cook. We go to the cinema. Do you make yourself write every day? Do you do a certain time or a certain place? I'm writing constantly. That's the funny thing. I never just sit about I want to write now. I'll be sitting there and I'll hear something, or I'll see a word, and I'll either note it, or I'll put it in my phone, or I'll sing it into my phone. So I'm constantly collecting ideas. And then when I sit down somewhere, I'll go, oh yeah, a train of thought that a few days ago I would have seen a sign. And then I kind of build on that. So it's constant. Yeah, it's not a conscious thing. Okay. You're from Jordan. Yeah. Do you ever feel like you represent the Middle East? Do you ever feel like you have to explain to people the Middle East, or where you're from? Or I hope I represent. A lot of people ask me straight away. They always ask me where I'm from. No one can figure out the accent, even though I sound more London now than I did when I first came here. But I love being from the Middle East, and I hope that I'm doing my country proud. And I know that I'm the first Jordanian to be in the charts, in the international charts, which Ali, my manager, brought to my attention recently, which made me feel very proud. Do you go back often? I do, yeah. I was back there about 2 or 3 times last year to perform. They roll out the red carpet at the airport. It's crazy, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. The reception that I get there. And what I love is that I feel like there's some kind of shift now where kids are seeing that because I've done it, they can do it. Which doesn't necessarily, again, I have to stress, doesn't necessarily have to mean doing it, as a singer and musician, whatever. It doesn't matter. The medium doesn't matter. It's about just being able to grab your balls. So empowerment. Absolutely. I hope so. Okay. Yeah. I always ask people that come on here a few questions at the end. I'm going to hit you with them. Go on. If you can make. Are we done? No. We're just. Oh my God, not done. That was lovely. Yeah, we're not done. No way. If you could make a phone call to the 20-year-old Ayah,
and give that young lady a bit of advice. I'm guessing you were at work at the time?
I was.
Sure. Okay. If you could give her some advice, and if you think she might listen to you, she'd probably hang up on you. Yeah. Shut up, old lady. Well, what would you tell her?
You know, I used to think I'd say, don't do it. You know, don't do something silly. But now I've realized that everything I've done has led me to this very moment sat here with you. So there's nothing that I could or would change about it. But I think to save myself a lot of heartbreak, I'd say modulate what that comes from and how it comes out. So instead of it going like that, make it kind of go like that first.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
So,
in what? Professing love, anger?
No, just think before you speak.
Okay.
Yeah, very important.
To everybody or anyone in particular?
Just the words have more meaning when they're thought through. So even if it's coming from the heart, you can't expect people to understand it just because you're speaking from the heart and then get frustrated when they don't. You have to think about how to put it so that that person understands you. Otherwise, you're just prolonging your journey.
Okay, well said. You know, you said something earlier about me listening to your album, and you said, Brian, I'm sensitive, so just keep that in mind. How can you be sensitive when you put your music out to the world? How do you respond to YouTube comments and people telling you that you're blah, 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 blah?
So I'm lucky in that unless they've been things we've put out on other labels, so, you know, UKF or Hospital, where they've got fans or people that come on and just want to be mean for the sake of it, and they, you know, they'll attack you physically or this, which is silly. At the start, I used to read them and they'd be really upsetting, but now I don't bother, because if someone has something to say to me, you can say it to me on Twitter, on whatever it is, email me, it doesn't matter. But it's more that there are certain people whose opinion I value, and I just felt like yours would be one that I'd value, so it was more about me playing on the emotional side there.
All right, thank you. I look forward to it.
Thank you.
The advice question continues. What's the best advice you've ever received?
We spoke about it earlier, actually.
What was that?
If you tell the truth, you'll never have to remember a thing.
It's very good advice. Funny
Yeah,
enough.
it's good advice, huh?
Yeah, I had a guest on recently, and that's what his Irish grandmother said to him. Yeah,
Really?
you always tell the truth, and
that's
you
it.
know, everything to worry about. And no one can put you down. And,
Yeah, no.
it goes far.
That's it.
And then the last question I always ask everyone here is to the 20-year-old, let's say the 20-year-old, the woman that's listening to us in Brazil or in China or in South America, that wants to be like Ayah someday. She wants to, you know, tour with Calvin. She wants to have her own label. She wants to produce music, you know, for a living. What advice do you give to her to get there?
Go for it, man. If that's it, I mean, if I can inspire a journey, that's wonderful. But I couldn't ever expect someone to want to emulate my journey. And God, I wish they'd just get in touch with me if they wanted to. So speak to me, you know. That's it. But go for it. If something you believe is going to give you fulfillment, and if you think that even the journey, whether it makes you happy or sad, whatever it is, just do it. Why not?
Do you have like a certain pet peeve of people that come up to you and say, I want to do this song, or I really want to do this, and you just, it's just part of you say, do you have anything like that?
I think we touched on it earlier when people say to me, oh, I want to do this, but I need a manager, but I needed this. But you don't need anything but you. Right. All you need is you. When you accept yourself, and when you love yourself, and when you know that you're all you need, and you can't be anything to anybody unless you're somebody to yourself, then, yeah. Because when people say that to me, I'm like, dude, what? What do you mean? I need this, and you don't need anything. You have what you need.
Do you think they're afraid of failing?
Who isn't?
Right.
Who isn't?
Have you ever been afraid to fail? Have you ever noticed yourself not doing something because you think, oh, I'm afraid to fail?
I don't like the word fail. And you know, people have sort of told me off about this, but I'm scared, or I fear is not really part of my vocabulary. I don't really respond to that. Not fear. You can worry. You can, you know, stay up at night, tossing and turning it. But fear is a really strong word, you know. And I hope we never have to experience it. And I know that things that are happening in the world now are getting people pretty close to it. And myself, someone who I never thought I'd use that word. It's the stuff that's going on around me that makes me feel fearful for us rather than fearful for myself. No, I've never really been, never fearful, impatient, know-it-all a little bit. Yeah, pushy. Yeah, I've been all of that. Yeah.
I'm imagining the early 20s.
God, please don't.
I'm like, Jesus. Jesus. And people all want to know, are you going to be doing more tracks with Calvin? Are you going to be touring with him? Is that an important thing to you, or if it happens, it happens?
I hope so. If it happens, it happens. Calvin and I, we see each other quite a lot. I saw him a few weeks ago when I was in LA, because he's out there at the moment, and he's just released the track listing for his new album, which obviously I would have loved to have been a part of, but the man's on his journey and he's doing his. I didn't even know that he was putting out another album. So, good luck to him. And I hope so. I think with me and Calvin, it's never ending, because I did 2 tracks on his second and 1 on his third, and from the success of Thinking About You, I'm hoping that, there'll be something else in the pipeline.
I mean, you guys must have one of the longest musical relationships that he has,
I've
right?
never thought of it. Yeah, actually, we probably do, yeah.
So you probably interact very differently in the studio because you know each other for so long.
We do, and it's just him and me when we're in there. And when we wrote Thinking About You, it was just us, And I think he likes to keep it that way.
You've seen, obviously with him and other artists, when you get this kind of mega fame level, it's tricky because the UFC, the cage fighting organization, the president Dana White calls them Klingons. and like when these fighters get really big, that all of a sudden now everyone's around them, and then they tell them things like, oh yeah, you shouldn't do that, or you shouldn't do that, and then but it changes things.
Yeah.
And do you see that happen in the music industry?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, money changes things. Money changes things. And listen, we can't knock it, because we're living in this consumer society and we're here for a reason. If we didn't want it, we could go live on an island in a loincloth and, eat fish all day long. We can do that. We can get an EasyJet flight to wherever we want to go. The possibilities are endless. While we're in this society, there are certain things. You want to have a roof over your head. You want a couple holidays a year. You might want a car. You might, we have priorities. But when it comes to that mega fame, that amount of money starts to mess with people. But that's what happens in politics as well. I think when mega money is involved, people want to cover their asses, people want to lie. So it's never really a good recipe. But if we're using Calvin as an example, he's perfect because he's got a strong head on his shoulders. I don't know if it's a Scotsman in him, but they seem to be pretty determined bunch of people. As we know from my associations with them, I seem to attract them. But he's very strong-willed and he's super, super talented. So he keeps his inner circle tight. Yeah.
How do people get your album? How do people get a hold of you? Tell me.
Everything Ayah Marar. So my name is spelled AYAHMARAR. Website, Facebook, Twitter. The album is online. You can get it on iTunes. You can get it on HMV websites, things like that. You can buy it anywhere, really. You can get it anywhere. Just Google it.
Okay, and strange creative things for the future. Will you ever act? Will you ever do anything?
You know what I'd love to do? I'd love to voice a cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a dream of mine to be the voice of a cartoon. Always wanted to do that. So if anyone's watching, I think I could do a good voice. Yeah.
Have you ever done anything like that?
Never. No.
Okay.
No, in the confines of in the privacy of my own house. Yeah, but not in public. No.
That would be very cool. Thanks so much for coming.
Pleasure.
I never know. It's like London Real is like a box of chocolates.
I knew.
Yeah. I never know what I'm going to get.
Occurred to me earlier, actually. Yeah.
And so you never know. You see someone's Twitter profile, or I see your videos, and you, by definition, as humans, we create this person.
We do.
And it's never that person. With London Real, it's always a cooler person.
That's That's your influence, yeah.
Maybe. But I see where you're going with like building your family, like you said. And I think I'm probably trying to do a similar thing here. And it's like, it's a community and it's a people and it's a love. And
absolutely.
I think in the South in America, they call it laying down roots.
Is that right?
Yeah. And I see it because it's like you really want to set up. I think it's an old habit of ours when we used to be in these hunter-gatherer clans. Tribal, where you want your people around you.
Well, the kids are all we got, man. That's all. Like, if we can't pass on what we know to them so they can sort it out, what are we going to do? Yeah,
it's crucial. And it's not just about your kids, it's about other people's
Everyone,
kids.
each one teach one. Absolutely, it's a village.
Yeah.
That's what I don't get about parents that are, I can understand this protectiveness that people have, but you're risking limiting their horizons if you keep it within. Why are we confining everything? Just open it up.
My martial arts instructor is a teacher at one of the schools, and he said to me once, he said, children need relationships with adults that are other than their parents. So that's why they need grandma, they need crazy uncles.
And hang out with old people. And they say, there's a Chinese philosophy that says you should spend X amount of hours with under 6s and over 60s every week. Yeah. So,
I just had a guest on last week who said you spend a third of your life with people, younger than you and less important with with you, a third of them the same kind of status, and a third with people that are almost your mentors. And just always be kind of giving peers and then being inspired.
That's the dream, yeah.
Let it go around. And yeah, this whole community thing, I could talk your ear off about it, but it's funny. I had a guest on here called Charles Eisenstein, and he's like, Brian, I went to Chicago, I lived out in the suburbs, and I thought I'm going to make a community now. And he invited people over to Super Bowl parties and barbecues, and he found that he had no lasting relationships with them because he said ultimately he didn't need them and they didn't need him. So he's like, you have to set up a community where people need you and you need them. And that's how you build your tribe. It can't be, let's meet up for dinner. It has to be like, you really have to do things, you know?
It's like someone said to me, it's like stars. You don't have to see them to know that they're there, kind of thing, or to believe that they're there, you know?
There you go.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on subconsciously.
Absolutely.
Anyway, Dr. You're off. Ayah, thanks so much for coming
Brian,
on.
Pleasure. Thank you.
It was a lot of fun. People are going to love this.
I hope so.
Yeah, I really think they are. Let's do it again sometime.
You're doing a great thing. Thank you so much, Brian.
Okay, thanks. We say at London Real, it's about the journey. I wish you well in yours and all the best.
Thank you so much.
Okay, take care.
Thank you.
All right.
What we call reality is in fact nothing more than a culturally sanctioned and linguistically reinforced hallucination.
This week on London Real, we have the English rapper, poet, and journalist, Akala.
Hate by the pound surrounds my reflection. I do this for my own protection.
If I didn't go to Pan-African Saturday School, if I didn't grow up in the Hackney Empire, if I didn't listen to Wu-Tang Forever or read the autobiography of Malcolm X when I was 9, would I be the person I am today? Probably not.
One too many man that could have been doctors end up spending the whole life boxed up.
Hip-hop was my life. It was something I lived. I loved interacting with it. I wrote lyrics every day. I was in battles.
Cause to me, all they do is breed conflict.
First time I saw someone get stabbed, I was 12, and it was a little poke. It was a meat cleaver in the back of a guy's head. I had other teachers that felt that a person from my racial, cultural, economic background, and certainly from my socio-economic background, should not have been top of the class. These were guys who were doing well in the street, but they'd spent so much of their life in and out of prison, etc. So they were like, you don't want to be like us. You know, you're clever. In fact, if you drop out of school, we're going to give you a hiding.
Yeah, they say you are British, and that lovely patriotism they feed you. But in reality, you have more in common with immigrants than with your leaders.
If the music is good enough, if the visual is good enough, if your online interaction is decent, you can keep your integrity and have a career.
If we're honest, true strength is the strength to be honest.
Ultimately, any power structure in the world wants to stay powerful.
On Sunday, London Real presents Akala. Knowledge is power.
It's fear, but at 20, you can't admit it's fear.